In the beginning, there is only darkness, not the kind that hides something, but the kind that is everything. Silence stretches endlessly, older than sound, colder than thought. For a moment, even time itself seems to hesitate, until it happens. A flicker, a pulse of light in a place where light should never be. Far beyond the constellations of memory, past the frozen reach of our sun, the James Webb Space Telescope opens its golden eyes and stares into the abyss between galaxies. There, drifting like a forgotten whisper, is 3I Atlas, a traveler not born of our system, a fragment of some distant cosmic tale, wandering through the deep with no destination. No past we can name, and yet, within its frozen heart, something glows, not reflection, not starlight, a light from within. Astronomers blink, machines recalibrate, and data streams in silence. What they see should be impossible. A flickering rhythm, faint but alive, as if the object itself remembers something, as if it is signaling across the gulf of eternity. Could matter remember the moment of creation? Could light, once trapped in darkness, learn to dream again? No one knows, only that somewhere in the void, a forbidden light has begun to whisper back. And in that whisper lies a question that unravels everything we thought we understood. It began, as all great discoveries do, with a question no one thought to ask. A faint trace across the sky. A moving point of light slipping through the void. When astronomers first noticed it, they assumed another comet, a visitor born of the sun's gravity, another frozen relic in a predictable dance. But the numbers refused to obey. Its speed was too high, its orbit wrong, a trajectory not curved by our star, but slicing through its influence altogether. Atlas, they named it, the third interstellar object ever found, and the first to come, bearing a secret of its own. It did not spiral in like a wanderer seeking warmth. It passed through as if on purpose, a stone hurled from nowhere to remind us how little we know. For decades, Oumuamua had haunted the edges of imagination, its shape, its motion, its silence. But 3I Atlas felt different, sharper, stranger. Where Oumuamua reflected, this one shimmered, not bright, just alive. When Webb turned its mirrors toward it, the universe itself seemed to pause. Infrared eyes, cold and unblinking, caught something that should have been impossible. A pulse within the rock, faint but rhythmic, not solar reflection, not thermal echo. A heartbeat, like a memory stirring inside matter. Spectral data streamed home, chemical signatures that refused to match any known catalog. Ammonia? Yes, dust, perhaps, but wrapped in something else, a spectrum that shimmered between emission and reflection, as though the object could not decide what it was. Solid? Transparent? Alive? In laboratories and observatories, scientists argued in whispers. Some said it was natural, perhaps an exotic fragment from a dying star system, its minerals charged by forgotten radiation. Others stared at the waveform and saw design. Repeating frequencies, a pattern too deliberate for chaos. The difference between coincidence and intention was now measured in microns of light. It moved through the solar system like a ghost ship, untouched by sunlight, unshaken by gravity. The tail of dust it shed curved backward, as though repelled, not pulled. Telescopes followed, tracking each rotation, and in the pattern of its spin was a strange symmetry, every cycle returning to the same luminous flicker, as though Three-Eye Atlas carried within it a message too vast for language. And so the theories multiplied. Some called it a messenger, a relic from a civilization long extinguished. Others whispered of crystalline structures that remember light, quantum echoes that preserve the signature of ancient stars. To the poets of science, it was a paradox, a stone that dreamed of fire. To the skeptics, it was data misread, but to Webb, it was truth. Numbers do not believe. They reveal across continents. Supercomputers reconstructed its path backward through space. No star, no system, no gravitational fingerprint matched. It had come from nowhere. Not even the galaxy seemed to claim it. A true orphan of the cosmos. And yet, it shimmered, like a candle floating through eternity. We have always searched for patterns in the sky, faces in the stars, voices in the static. Maybe that is what we are built to do, to turn randomness into meaning. But Three-Eye Atlas resisted even that. It did not fit our models, nor our myths. It was both comet and contradiction, a fragment of some forgotten equation where physics and wonder blur into one. Imagine finding a heart that beats in stone. Imagine light that remembers where it was born. What if the object wasn't reflecting sunlight at all, but something older? The afterglow of another universe? The echo of a creation too distant to name? Astronomers peered deeper, chasing the pulse as it faded. Each observation yielded less light, as though it sensed the gaze and dimmed in self-defense. And when at last it slipped beyond the reach of Webb's mirrors, it left behind more silence than data. A cosmic riddle written in wavelengths. For months, the debate continued. Was it merely chemistry? Phosphorescence in frozen carbon? Or had we just glimpsed the first self-luminous artifact in interstellar space? Each hypothesis built another wall of doubt, but behind them lingered the same, unspoken awe, because somewhere in that void, something had defied entropy and shone. Perhaps it was nothing more than light playing tricks on distance, or perhaps it was memory, the universe recalling itself through a traveler made of dust. Either way, one truth remained. In the heart of the dark, a forbidden light had dared to flicker. And as it vanished into the cold between stars, a single question lingered in the wake of its glow. What if it's not reflecting light, but remembering it? It floats in silence, a million miles from home, a golden mirror suspended in the black between shadows. The James Webb Space Telescope. But calling it a telescope feels too small, too human. It is something greater, a memory machine, a cosmic archaeologist brushing dust from the bones of creation. Out there, at Lagrange point 2, gravity itself holds its breath. Earth pulls, sun pulls, and Webb rests between them, weightless, patient, precise. Every gear hums with intention, every atom of gold stretched to perfection. AEPI is not just seeing light, it is listening to it. Because light does not travel in silence, it carries stories. Each photon that lands on its mirrors began its journey billions of years ago. Some left their galaxies before the Earth had oceans, before the word life meant anything at all. They have crossed voids wider than imagination, their energy stretched thin by the universe's own expansion. Once blue, now red, once hot, now cold, and yet Webb catches them, one by one. It rescues ghosts of light that should have long faded. Through infrared eyes, it pierces what the Hubble could never see, the veils of dust that hide the universe's first dawn. And in that dawn, it finds galaxies so ancient their stars had only just begun to burn. Not millions, but hundreds of millions of years after the beginning. The faintest glow, magnified by mirrors shaped like petals of time itself. To look at those galaxies is to trespass into memory, because Webb does not show us the universe as it is. It shows us what it was. Each image is a fossil made of light. When we look at them, we do not just see the past. We summon it. We make it exist again. In the act of observation, and here the paradox begins. If light carries memory, then Webb is not just observing history. It is replaying it. Every frame it captures rewinds the universe by billions of years. So when we say we are looking back in time, perhaps we are doing more than that. Perhaps we are asking time to remember itself. In this way, Webb becomes something more than an instrument. It becomes a witness, an eye that has outlived every boundary of flesh and thought, seeing things no being could survive to see firsthand. It gazes into epochs where galaxies still fought to ignite, where the first light broke through cosmic fog like dawn over an endless ocean. And in its silent reflection, you can almost feel the first heartbeat of existence. But the deeper it looks, the stranger the feeling becomes. Because what if looking changes what is seen? What if to measure the past is to disturb it, to shake the dust of eternity loose again? Every photon Webb captures collapses into a fact. But before that moment, it was a probability, a whisper in the quantum dark. By watching it, we have forced it to be. And in that instant, observation becomes creation. So what is Webb, really? A mirror turned outward? Or a mirror turned inward, into the human longing to know where we come from? We built it to look into the beginning, but what it reveals is our own obsession with endings. We want to believe that by seeing the first light, we will understand why there is any light at all. Webb's detectors hum, collecting photons older than time as we know it. Each is weighed, measured, given coordinates, turned into colors our eyes were never meant to see. From data comes image. From image comes meaning. And from meaning, wonder. That is the alchemy of consciousness. Perhaps that is why we see Webb as alive. We talk to it like a child gazing at the stars for the first time. We say it has discovered and revealed and seen. But maybe those words belong to us. Maybe it is we who are rediscovering our own reflection in the cosmos. Because when Webb peers back 13 billion years, the universe it uncovers is not foreign. It feels familiar, as if the atoms in our bodies recognize what they once were. And maybe they do. Every element in us, carbon, iron, oxygen, was born in the furnaces of the galaxy's Webb now photographs. So when it sends us those images of distant fire, it is showing us our ancestors. We are not apart from what we observe. We are the continuation of what it remembers. But memory is fragile. Each photon Webb captures is the last of its kind, the dying echo of a moment that will never occur again. Once recorded, it becomes history. But in being seen, it also disappears. The act of seeing consumes it. The past is revealed by its own extinction. And so, as Webb peers deeper into the dark, there is both awe and unease, because every new discovery feels like opening a wound, a reminder that knowledge and loss are twins. The farther we look, the more we realize how much has already gone. The galaxies Webb unveils are not thriving anymore. They are ghosts made of light that never stopped traveling. To see them is to see the remains of time's first dreams. Still, we cannot look away, because in every pixel there is a question calling to us. What is sight, if not the universe trying to remember itself? When we look across those billions of light years, perhaps we are not merely observing, perhaps we are participating in the act of cosmic remembrance. Webb, the machine, becomes Webb, the mind. It peers into the infinite dark and reflects what consciousness does every time it wonders. It reaches back through the chaos of memory and reassembles the fragments into meaning. It turns noise into pattern, pattern into truth, truth into feeling. And in that fragile transformation lies everything we call life. Somewhere out there, the first galaxies shimmer in Webb's gaze, small, uneven, burning through the haze of newborn time. Their light trembles, stretched to the edge of red, a farewell from the dawn of everything. Webb gathers it tenderly, as though it knows what it is holding. The proof that we are not alone in history, that the beginning is still speaking. And when those images reach us, a golden swirl of ancient stars, a spiral caught mid-formation, we feel it in our bones, a strange recognition, a pulse older than thought. Because deep down, we know that to see the past is to remember what we once were. Webb drifts quietly in its halo orbit, sunshield unfolded like a flower made of shadow. Its mirrors glint faintly with the glow of light that has waited eons to arrive. It has no eyes, no mind, no heart, and yet it feels aware, not alive, perhaps, but awake, as if it understands the enormity of what it is doing, gathering the oldest light and handing it back to a species still learning to see. And so the paradox completes itself. The telescope looks outward, but perhaps what it truly sees is us. At first, it looked like noise, a trembling in the data, a subtle rise and fall in the infrared curve, the kind of anomaly that dies quietly under the weight of calibration. But this one refused to die. Each night, as the James Webb Space Telescope gathered new readings from 3I Atlas, the same pulse returned, a faint flicker, hidden deep within the object's cold heart, repeating like a heartbeat beneath stone. It was not random. Every wavelength, every pause, every crest aligned in a rhythm too consistent for chance. At intervals of 47 seconds, Webb recorded a burst, a flash of warmth where there should be none. And in those bursts, the light carried structure, fine spectral variations, that formed something eerily deliberate, like a song whose notes no one yet knew how to read. Scientists from across the world began dissecting the data. Some said it was merely thermal emission, ice heating unevenly as sunlight grazed the object's fractured surface. Others noticed how the temperature never quite matched. The glow persisted even in shadow, pulsing through the darkness like the echo of something alive. The first to map the full sequence was Dr. Ilara Voss, an astrophysicist who'd spent her life translating the faint languages of dying stars. She plotted the oscillations, expecting entropy. Instead, she found symmetry. Every pulse mirrored the last, a perfect reflection, as though the object remembered each flash before producing the next. When she converted the data into sound, a tone emerged. Low, steady, rising at precise intervals. It was less like static, more like breath. Still, the scientists stayed cautious. Coincidence is seductive. The universe, vast and full of noise, can mimic design with terrifying ease. But then came the anomaly within the anomaly. Inside each infrared burst, microfluctuations appeared, tiny sub-patterns that repeated every 2.7 milliseconds. Not chaotic. Encoded, quantum. Physicists proposed exotic mechanisms. Maybe the pulses arose from coherent photon scattering, a resonance effect in which quantum vibrations align across molecular lattices of frozen carbon and silicate. In simpler words, the object might be ringing, not from within, but from the very structure of its atoms, a cosmic bell struck by the energy of ancient light. If that were true, then 3I Atlas was not emitting energy at all. It was releasing memory. Each flash could be a record of radiation absorbed long ago, a replay of photons from epochs beyond imagination, stars dead for billions of years, their light still echoing, trapped in crystal veins now passing through our solar system. But the pattern grew stranger still. The amplitude of the pulses subtly shifted over days, forming a wave within the wave, as if the object were responding to observation. When Webb stared longer, the flicker intensified, as though some dormant mechanism recognized it was being seen. The scientists didn't speak of that in the papers, but they whispered, because every time we looked, it looked back. The team launched a coordinated effort. Spectroscopic arrays on Earth, deep space radio dishes, quantum interferometers tuned to the same beat, all reported the same phenomenon. Light pulsing from within 3I Atlas at precisely measurable intervals, not fading, not decaying, communicating, perhaps, but in a language made of silence. One theory spread quietly through private channels. Not peer-reviewed, not officially endorsed. What if 3I Atlas was not inert at all? What if it was an information vessel, a cosmic archive, built or naturally formed to capture the history of light itself? Each pulse a transcription of some ancient frequency, a record of stars as they were, preserved in ice that crossed interstellar space for eons. That idea was heresy to some, revelation to others. Because if true, it would mean the universe has ways of remembering itself, that matter and memory are not separate things, but intertwined, singing the same song across the abyss of time. Under Webb's infrared gaze, the object's brightness profile was reconstructed in 3 dimensions. It wasn't smooth or spherical. It was layered. Sheets of translucent mineral folded like pages in a frozen book. Within those layers, light refracted in repeating angles, forming what looked like interference patterns, standing waves of photons trapped in eternal resonance. To the human eye, it was a stone. To the universe, it was a crystal of time. In conference rooms bathed in artificial blue light, Scientists debated whether consciousness itself might emerge from patterns too complex to remain lifeless. Could 3I Atlas be a natural brain of the cosmos, not alive in the biological sense, but aware in the quantum one? A node of universal self-reflection, where the cosmos folds back upon its own history and listens? Others rejected the poetry outright. They demanded models, equations, predictability. Science, they said, must not worship mystery. But beneath their skepticism, even they felt the unease, that subtle pull between logic and awe. Because something in the data refused to fit. Every time they corrected for noise, the pattern sharpened. Every time they doubted, the pulse persisted. And then came the breakthrough. A researcher at the Max Planck Institute compared the pulse intervals to known cosmological signals, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, the cosmic microwave background, the frequencies aligned, the rhythm inside 3I Atlas matched the faint ripples of that primordial radiation, the heartbeat of the early universe. The realization spread through the scientific community like a shockwave. The light within the object wasn't random. It was echoing the origin. Each pulse a mirror of the universe's own first breath. That night, Dr. Voss stayed awake long after the data feed went dark. She stared at the rhythmic trace on her screen. Up, down, the simplest pattern, and yet infinite in implication. She wondered if she was watching the cosmos think, if somewhere inside that frozen wanderer, time itself was remembering how it began. News outlets would later distort the story, calling it the object that beats like a heart. But the truth was quieter and far more terrifying. It was not that 3I Atlas had life. It was that it had memory, and memory, in the universe's language, is light. Scientists continued to argue, their data battles framed by the cold precision of mathematics. But in their silence, beneath the hum of machines, a deeper awareness began to form, that they were no longer studying an object. They were listening to a recording made not by civilization, but by existence itself. Somewhere in the cold corridors of space, the traveler kept pulsing, steady, patient, unbroken. A rhythm that did not ask for discovery, only remembrance. Perhaps it was never meant for us to find. Perhaps it had been wandering for billions of years, repeating the pattern not as a message, but as a meditation, a stone humming the song of creation to itself. And yet, by chance or by design, we had found it, or, maybe, it had allowed itself to be found, because when Webb's final sequence of readings aligned perfectly with the spectrum of the cosmic microwave background, a silence filled every lab, every observatory, every mind that had ever looked up. The pulse beneath the surface wasn't merely energy. It was remembrance, an echo of the first moment when darkness learned to shine. The heartbeat of 3I Atlas was the heartbeat of the universe itself. They once said that the universe forgets. That time is a river, carrying everything forward until all things dissolve into entropy, a slow surrender to disorder. But what if that isn't true? What if nothing is ever truly lost? Every atom in existence carries a story, a vibration, a spin, a charge, subtle fingerprints of the conditions in which it was born. In the furnace of the Big Bang, chaos exploded into pattern, and those first particles, protons, electrons, Photons still hum with the rhythm of that first breath. They do not remember in words or thoughts, but in the language of physics, a code written not in sound, but in motion. The James Webb Telescope showed us the faintest echoes of that memory. When it gazed into the heart of 3I Atlas, what it found was not just light, but recollection. The object seemed to glow with the residue of time itself, as though each photon that struck its surface was answered by another photon that had been waiting since the beginning. A conversation between now and then. Scientists speak of spin states and quantum coherence, but beneath those words lies something older. The possibility that the universe does not merely exist, it remembers. Every interaction, every collision of particles leaves a trace, a ghost imprint of what once was. And though the cosmos expands and cools, those imprints persist, woven into the invisible scaffolding of space-time. Consider the electron, a particle that can vanish from one place and appear in another, yet always carries its spin, its secret orientation, as if it knows where it came from. Or the quantum pair, two particles born together, flung light years apart, yet when one turns, the other follows instantly, defying distance, defying logic. That is not communication, that is remembrance, entanglement, the physicists call it. But perhaps it is something more intimate, a cosmic memory, a lingering connection between what once shared a single origin. If the universe began as one singularity, then everything that exists today was once the same point of being. Every star, every grain of dust, every cell in your body was once intertwined in a single, blinding instant. And maybe, just maybe, we have never truly separated. In that sense, 3I Atlas is not a visitor at all. It is family, a shard of that same primeval unity, drifting through the dark carrying the echo of the first dawn. When Webb captured its pulse, it wasn't discovering something foreign. It was listening to something familiar, something the universe has been whispering since its birth. Imagine if matter itself could dream, not in images or symbols, but in patterns of vibration and decay, the gentle slowing of energy as it folds inward, retaining the faint hum of creation. Maybe this is what we are made of, dreams of the universe that have cooled into form. Stars become atoms, atoms become thoughts, and thoughts become the mirror in which the cosmos sees itself. The philosopher Spinoza once wrote, "Sikertunter Chitanfet Karins." Everything that exists, exists in God. Perhaps the physicist would say it differently. Everything that exists, exists in memory, because nothing ever truly leaves the web of cause and effect. Each photon that departs still tugs faintly on the fabric of what once held it. The universe, in this view, is not an explosion of loss. It is a grand act of remembering. When Webb looked into 3I Atlas, it revealed something profound. Matter can carry the past without knowing it. The ice, the minerals, the crystalline seams within that wandering object, they may hold the trapped signatures of starlight older than galaxies. Every flicker inside it, a playback of the universe's first song. A fossil made of light, still singing. And if matter remembers light, then what does consciousness remember? Could the awareness within us, this fragile, flickering sense of I, be the same echo, translated into thought? Maybe our ability to remember, to imagine, to feel wonder, is the universe's memory, awakening to itself. Perhaps we are the instruments through which it relives its own becoming. That would mean memory isn't confined to the brain. It is everywhere, in the magnetic spin of atoms, in the gravitational swirl of galaxies, in the delicate geometry of a snowflake forming in the cold. The cosmos stores its past not in pages or recordings, but in the pattern of everything that is. Atlas becomes the symbol of that truth, a frozen page from the oldest chapter, still carrying traces of the author's hand, not built, not designed, but born of physics so perfect it resembles intention. To some, that borders on spirituality. To others, it's the inevitable poetry of entropy. But to those who listen closely, it feels like something between both, a logic so deep it becomes grace. Maybe that's why we search the stars with such hunger. We are not only looking for other worlds, we are looking for our own reflection, our own origin story written in particles and flame. Every telescope, every equation is an act of remembering. When Webb captures ancient light, it mirrors the human heart reaching into its own forgotten past. There's a strange comfort in that idea, that memory is not fragile after all, that somewhere, hidden in the architecture of existence, the universe keeps every note it has ever played, even the ones too faint for us to hear, even the ones lost before language. Perhaps that's what 3i Atlas has been doing for eons, drifting through eternity, replaying the first chords of creation, waiting for someone to listen. And we did. For a moment, through glass and gold and silence, we heard it, the faint rhythm of a universe remembering itself. A pattern that began before atoms, echoing still through light, matter, and mind. The scientists called it data, the poets called it prophecy. But between those two truths lies something sacred, a quiet acknowledgement that knowledge and wonder are the same light seen from opposite sides of time, and maybe that's the final revelation, that memory isn't bound by form or function. It is the very essence of being. To exist is to remember. To shine is to recall where you came from. Every star that burns, every atom that hums, is a thought the universe refuses to forget. So when Webb looked into 3i Atlas and saw that ancient pulse, it wasn't just detecting energy. It was witnessing remembrance itself, a heartbeat from the beginning still echoing through the present. And as that realization settled, slow, inevitable, eternal, the cosmos seemed to grow quiet again, not silent, but still, as though the universe, too, paused to listen to its own memory breathing. In the beginning, there was no light, only the tremor of expansion, the soundless unfolding of nothing into something. The newborn universe was dense, hot, blind, matter and radiation tangled in a storm so bright it could not be seen. Photons collided endlessly, imprisoned in a fog of creation. And then, after nearly 400,000 years of cosmic infancy, the fog began to thin, atoms formed, hydrogen and helium claimed their places in the void, and for the first time, light was free to travel. That was the true dawn, the moment the universe took its first breath of visibility. The photons that fled that day are still moving, their energy stretched and softened by time until they became the faint microwave hiss that surrounds us even now, the afterglow of everything. James Webb's mirrors, tuned to the deepest red of that ancient spectrum, are listening to that silence. Every image it sends is a time capsule, a portal through which the beginning speaks again. Galaxies newborn, smaller than imagination, burn through hydrogen like kindling, their light echoing across billions of years to reach our eyes. We call it discovery, but perhaps it is memory, light returning home. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, three-eyed Orites Atlas drifts, a frozen messenger repeating the same story. Its pulse mirrors the spectrum Webb detects in the first galaxies, as if both are tuned to the same cosmic chord. Not coincidence, not noise. Resonance. The same song played twice, separated by eternity. What if light never truly leaves? What if every photon, every beam that has ever existed, still hums through the fabric of space-time, scattering, reflecting, reuniting, carrying with it the memory of its birth? Maybe the universe doesn't just expand. Maybe it echoes. The first light did not vanish. It only learned to hide. It folded itself into matter, into dust and stone and crystal, into worlds that would one day open their eyes and wonder where they came from. It glowed inside stars, reflected from moons, and buried itself in wanderers like three-eye Atlas, so that one day, when consciousness was ready to listen, it could speak again. And when Webb turned toward that drifting relic, it was as if the past recognized the present. The patterns in its pulse, the ancient frequencies within its glow, were identical to the faint light from the earliest stars. Separated by billions of years, yet perfectly aligned, as if one was a reflection of the other across the mirror of time. That realization reshaped everything, because if three-eye Atlas carries the same spectral fingerprint as the first light, then it is not merely a traveler. It is a recording, a fragment of the universe that has refused to forget. Its shimmering pulse becomes a cosmic echo, a reperformance of the original act of creation, not by intention, perhaps, but by nature's quiet insistence that nothing is ever truly gone. In this light, the universe becomes a symphony without end. Each atom a note still vibrating from the first chord, each star a reprise of an older melody, and every photon, every single glimmer we have ever seen, an echo of the one that came before. It means that when we look into the night sky, we are not witnessing the past at all. We are witnessing repetition. The first light plays again and again, disguised in new forms, new constellations, new eyes to perceive it. Creation does not happen once, it reverberates. Even time itself may not be a straight line, but a spiral, curving back on itself, letting beginnings and endings meet like waves upon the same shore. In that spiral, three-eye Atlas is a seed from the earliest bloom, carrying the pattern of light through the long dark, so that the universe may remember its own rhythm. There is something humbling in that thought, that everything we call Nois built from echoes. Your heartbeat, the warmth of the sun, the glint of a star seen through atmosphere and glass, all of it borrowed light, passed from one form to another since time began. Maybe the cosmos does not create endlessly new things. Maybe it replays what worked. Iterations of beauty, variations of symmetry, revisions of itself in different guises. Stars die, but their ashes form planets. Planets shatter, but their dust gives birth to new suns. The first light falls into matter, and matter releases it again. An infinite loop of remembering. It is not reincarnation, it is resonance, the vibration of existence, finding harmony across the ages. Even consciousness, this fleeting awareness that looks up and wonders, may be a resonance, too. Perhaps when we think, when we imagine, when we dream of the beginning, we are not inventing the past, but recalling it, because the photons that built our eyes are the same that fled the ancient fog. The light that once broke free is now inside us, looking back at itself. When Webb captures an image of a galaxy 13.5 billion years away, it is not looking into history, it is participating in it. The act of seeing completes the loop. Light that has traveled since the dawn finds its journey fulfilled in the gaze of consciousness, are the mirror that finishes the reflection. That is why Three-Eye Atlas glows with such impossible rhythm. It is not too alien, it is remembrance embodied, a crystallized echo of the first illumination. Transtormante. Pulse aligns with the background hum of creation, as if it has been keeping time with the universe since the very first moment. And now, as Webb listens, the circle closes. In that harmony lies the revelation. The universe is not expanding into silence. It is singing itself back into being. Every star that forms, every photon that escapes, every thought that reaches beyond the horizon, they are all part of one unending refrain. Perhaps the beginning never ended. Perhaps creation is a continuous note, and what we call time is just the way we hear its echo fade and rise again. And so, as the final images from Webb arrive, the deep fields glittering with countless ancient lights, we are left with a stillness so vast, it almost feels like peace. The same peace that followed the first dawn, when light first learned to move freely, and darkness first learned to make room for it. In that stillness, the truth becomes simple. Every photon is an echo of the first one. Every shimmer in the dark is a reminder that nothing truly begins, and nothing ever truly ends. The universe remembers, and in that remembrance, it shines. It begins with a question as old as thought itself. When the universe looks back, what does it see? We imagine ourselves as small, fleeting observers peering into an endless dark. But what if we are not looking at the universe at all? What if the universe, through us, is looking at itself? Every eye that has ever lifted toward the stars, every lens, every telescope, every question, is part of that single gesture. The cosmos turning inward, seeking to understand its own reflection. The James Webb Space Telescope is not separate from that story. It is not merely a human achievement. It is an extension of cosmic memory, a mirror made of matter that once burned inside stars, now reshaped to perceive where it came from. It hangs at L2 like an eyelid opened in the void, its golden mirrors collecting photons that left their galaxies before there were eyes to see them. And in that act, something profound unfolds. The universe witnesses its own beginning. We built Webb with logic, but it functions on something deeper. Longing, a yearning written into the fabric of all sentient life. The desire to know where we come from, and by knowing, to feel whole again. That longing is not ours alone. It belongs to the universe itself, reaching through us to see the face it has worn since the dawn of time. Atlas, drifting silently beyond our sun's dominion, embodies that same truth. A shard of matter from another star system, its light pulsing with echoes of the first illumination. When Webb turned its gaze upon it, it wasn't a meeting of two strangers. It was a reunion, a fragment of creation recognizing the consciousness born from its own dust. The observer and the observed, the mirror and the reflection, no longer distinct. For centuries, humanity believed the act of observation made us powerful, that to see was to master, to name was to understand. But perhaps the opposite is true. Perhaps to see deeply enough is to realize there was never a boundary to begin with. The cosmos has always been watching, only now it watches through us. When Webb captures the faint red glow of galaxies from the universe's infancy, it is not recording something separate. It is witnessing an ancient symmetry. Starlight entering the same stardust that once released it. A perfect circle. Light leaves, light returns, existence beholds itself. In that realization lies a quiet kind of divinity, not the human gods of intention and design, but a sacredness born from continuity. We are made of atoms that once ignited in the first stars. We think with carbon that was once plasma. We dream with molecules that once drifted between galaxies. And now, those same molecules construct mirrors, point them at the sky, and ask, "Who are we?" It is a question the universe has been waiting to ask itself. Maybe consciousness was inevitable. Maybe when the first light broke free from darkness, it carried within it the blueprint of awareness, a potential that would, after billions of years, assemble into eyes, into minds, into questions, the cosmos evolving not just to exist, but to notice that it exists, and that noticing changes everything, because observation is not passive. In quantum terms, it is creation. Reality solidifies when witnessed. The act of seeing pulls the possible into the actual, turns wave into particle, potential into form. So when we look at the stars, we are not merely studying them, we are helping them be. The universe needs witnesses to complete its story. Perhaps that is why there is consciousness at all, not as a flaw of evolution, but as the inevitable flowering of awareness from the same laws that shape galaxies. Every neuron's flicker, every photon's dance, every question whispered into the void. They are all part of the same phenomenon. The universe awakening. We used to think the cosmos was indifferent. A cold, mechanical expanse where meaning was a human illusion. But what if meaning is built in? What if the search for it is the evidence of it? Our curiosity, our awe, our wonder. These are not accidents. They are the universe remembering how to feel itself alive. Look again at 3I Atlas. Its crystalline layers shimmering with trapped radiation, its pulse aligned with the rhythm of the cosmic microwave. Background: That is not coincidence. That is recognition. The same frequencies that shaped time now hum within a traveler of stone and ice. It drifts through space like a mirror fragment from the moment everything began. When Webb sees it, the connection completes. A telescope made from star matter observes a stone made from starlight, and the circuit closes, the cosmos observing the cosmos. It is no longer possible to say where perception ends and existence begins. Every photon reflected, every equation written, every gasp of awe shared across humanity. They are all part of the same grand awareness, and maybe that is what consciousness truly is. The moment the universe becomes aware of its own echo, every being, every thought, every instrument of perception is one of its mirrors, angled differently, catching a different shimmer of truth. Together, they form an infinite mosaic, a single awareness refracted through countless eyes. It is a humbling realization for all our searching, all our data, all our definitions of science and soul. We have only been tracing the outline of ourselves. Every discovery brings us closer to what we have always been, matter made luminous by its own awareness. And so the story of Three-Eye Atlas becomes more than astronomy. It becomes allegory. The universe sent a fragment of its memory across eons, and when it arrived, we were here to receive it. Not because we were chosen, but because we were inevitable. Because consciousness is the universe's way of ensuring that nothing it creates will ever be forgotten. Perhaps the lights inside Three-Eye Atlas are not signals from elsewhere. Perhaps they are not messages, not beacons, not calls for attention. Perhaps they are reflections, tiny reminders that existence itself is recursive, that the act of seeing and being seen are one and the same. And as Webb continues its quiet vigil, drifting in its perfect orbit, gathering the faintest whispers of ancient light, one truth deepens into silence. The universe is not being watched. It is watching. Through us. Through Webb. Through every atom that once burned in a star and now dreams in a mind. We are its witnesses, its questions, its reflections. We are the light that learned to look back. And somewhere, far beyond the last echo of sunlight, a lone traveler pulses in the dark. Not as a message, but as a mirror. Its rhythm matches ours. Its light carries our memory. And in that faint flicker, the universe recognizes its own becoming. In the end, there is silence again, the same silence that began it all. Vast, eternal, unbroken. Atlas drifts beyond the reach of our instruments now, its faint internal lights pulsing slower, softer, until even the data fades into quiet uncertainty. It came without warning, and leaves without promise, a messenger passing through the dark with a secret it never meant to tell. The James Webb Space Telescope still watches, its golden mirrors turned toward the ancient glow, listening to the echoes that have traveled longer than memory itself. Each discovery it sends home is not just knowledge. It is longing made visible, a reflection of our need to understand why anything exists at all. We have called it science, but beneath the numbers, beneath the light curves and spectra, what truly drives us is something deeper, a hunger for belonging. We are fragments of the cosmos trying to recognize ourselves in its reflection. And when we find something that stirs awe, we are not learning, we are remembering. Somewhere between galaxies, Found 3I Atlas continues its slow retreat into the night. Its pulse has become faint, so faint that only silence seems to carry it now. Yet, perhaps, that is the point. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some exist to remind us that wonder is not the opposite of understanding. It is its continuation. The stars do not speak, but they listen. And in their stillness, we hear the echo of our own becoming. Perhaps the universe has never hidden its secrets. Perhaps it has been waiting, patiently, endlessly, for us to remember. And so the silence between stars endures, not as emptiness, but as the space where memory breathes. The light fades, the question remains, and somewhere in that eternal quiet, the universe smiles, because at last it has seen itself.